Hello and welcome back. So, from the main set, the other set's still in flux, and so here I am on the main set to discuss television stuff and movie stuff as well. So, kind of like a news of the day type format, like you would see on the main channel, and let us discuss. I want to start off talking about Masters of the Universe. So I got through the first 5 episodes, part one of the first season, and you have to think there's going to be more seasons than just the one. And I immediately saw people on the internet complaining that He-Man dies in the first episode, and what a joke, and this is terrible. And right away I thought, okay, so consider me interested. He-Man was a cartoon that in the 80s I was not a fan. You didn't have a choice but to watch it because you had 12 channels to watch. If you don't include the French channel would make it 13. And even then, no, it was 12 because the first channel was your UHF channel, and nobody's watching the UHF stuff. So yeah, it was basically watch He-Man or the news or Faith Healers. So all right, I guess I'll watch He-Man. So I didn't like it. I didn't. I thought Prince Adam was a one-dimensional character. I thought that Cringer / Battle Cat wasn't a character much at all. I thought He-Man was kind of boring. We used to make fun, my friends and I, when we were kids, we used to make fun of his whole, holding up his sword and everything, and all of the magic words to make the sword, give him all his power and all his muscles and everything. It didn't work for me. Never did. Now, the new one, I've seen people say it's the Tila show. No. The way I see it is, it's like a Fellowship of the Ring type thing. It also has a lot of beats that match other movies and match other series, and it has some other beats to it. But I think it's unique. And what I appreciate about Masters of the Universe, which does not have He-Man in the title. So when people say, this is a He-Man show. No, it's Masters of the Universe. And it gets into the lore, which the show kind of did, but not really. So you had Orko, who sucked. Tila was interesting. Man-at-Arms was kind of there. Like, the characterization wasn't there. The most interesting ones to me were the villains. The villains were the one that everybody was unique. Triclops was unique from Merman, was unique from Beastman. So, to me, the uniqueness was with the villains, and of course, every single episode was the same. In the end, the good guys win, which is how cartoons work in the 80s, right? You have that. And I know I was never a fan of G.I. Joe either. Full, complete confession here. I used to think, why don't any of those Cobra soldiers, who all appear to have guns, why doesn't one of them just turn and fire it at Duke while he's running right at him? Not one of them. And it drove me nuts. Kind of sort of drove me nuts. So I might have been the only kid watching at home going, why don't the bad guys just shoot the good guys? They have the guns. And then when they have a chance at point blank range up close, they don't do it. And in the case of He-Man, what drove me nuts was Skeletor, who I found much more entertaining than He-Man anyways. He was really dumb. Some of the plans, I was like, none of that makes any sense. So I like that in the new cartoon, they basically call him out on that. And Evil Lynn basically calls him out on that as well. So if you haven't seen it, so if you've been holding back on watching it because people are talking nasty about it or talking about how horrible it is, I'm not going to spoil any more of it. I'm just going to say I really enjoyed it as somebody who was not a fan of the original cartoon. And I know I need to make that distinction because people who love the original cartoon may not enjoy the new one. But I honestly thought the old one was... And honestly, all of the cartoons in the 80s were about selling action figures. That's why there were so many different villains on He-Man. Because they got to sell you the new action figure. Here's Triclops. And then they go to a commercial and, oh, look, Triclops is in the commercial. What a coincidence. So, yeah, for me being kind of cynical even as a kid, it played into that. Now, Transformers, I love Transformers, but some of the Transformers episodes, I mean, I have all of them on DVD. And some of those, when I've tried rewatching them, I'm like, wow, this is an advertisement for that Transformer as a gift for your kid. There's no other reason for this episode to exist other than to sell you on the latest action figure that they're pushing. They would have a Transformer show up in an episode you'd never seen before. He'd do something really heroic, and then you wouldn't see him anymore. So it gets really obvious that, oh, we got to stuff this guy in here because they're bringing out action figures. So yeah. Masters of the Universe, I give it a thumbs up. I think Kevin Smith did well. I also recognize the voice of Mark Hamill as Skeletor, and Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela. I can get behind that, absolutely. Love Sarah Michelle Gellar. She was Buffy. Once you see that she's the one playing the character, you understand some of the decisions they make with that character. But I don't see it as much as the Teela show as others do. I thought Teela and Evil Lynn had some good character development, and for people who want to talk about the big, there is a cliffhanger at the end of part 1, not buying it. Not buying it. I think there's a lot more going on there than meets the eye, which is kind of a Transformers throwback with more than meets the eye. And I think that's the difference between He-Man in the 80s and Masters of the Universe now. There wasn't anything really beneath the surface. There wasn't anything to really think, well, but what's really happening here? And I think there is with the new series. So we'll see. Tokyo 2020. I was all gung-ho. I was going to do like I did on the main channel years back when they were in Brazil. Problem is, all the games were in the middle of the night. So even though I've been watching like the platform diving, I watched some of the short track or the sprint team cycle or the sprint cycling last night, which on that track, I mean, they go 65 kilometers an hour. That's insane. I cannot imagine on a bike going that fast, especially on a course that looks really slippery. It's made of wood, and I kept waiting for people to wipe out. I was pretty convinced somebody was going to wipe out. But yeah, we watched like the speed walking the other night. There's been a lot of stuff we've watched, but while I was going to make videos on here about it, again, it's in the middle of the night. So for me to report on stuff that's happening at the Olympics, I kind of need to be timely with my reporting. It makes me terrified of the NHL shutting down for 3 weeks so they can go over to Japan, because I need to be on a normal schedule. And if the hockey games are all going to be in the middle of the night, I don't know how that's going to go. I really don't know how that's going to go, or what kind of viewership I'm even going to get on reviews. And we'll see what kind of time frame they put on those games. It does frighten me though, because I'd love to report on every game, but I don't know how that's going to work. Again, that's if the NHL shuts down and goes over. But Tokyo, it's been a good games considering everything, right? I think they've done a decent job. Like today, the Abbotsford Air Show, we went out, we watched about an hour of that. It's on again tomorrow during the afternoon, and it's a fun watch. So yeah, and I didn't take a video of that either because I was watching it with binoculars this year, and I thought about it at one point. I'm like, I put down binoculars, pick up my phone, and I'm like, I'm just gonna watch the Jets, because the Jets, a lot of fun to watch the Jets. But yeah, so Tokyo 2020, I apologize. And now I'm worried about Beijing in February. Yeah. So Love Island, as we just jump around through what Shannon's been watching. I have to say that with Love Island, it is a guilty pleasure for me. And I know when I tweet about it, it kind of throws some people off. Because you wouldn't think, well, this guy that's got the Hockey Channel probably watches this gossipy romance summer show. I find it really funny. And there are parts of it I find funny. There are parts of it, too, that I'm like, wow, seriously? So, last night, they had a recoupling. Now, when you have a recoupling, there's always going to be one person left over. When that one person is left over, it is an upsetting moment for everybody else in the villa, as they call the area that they're in. This quarantined area that they're in together. And, of course, they can't have contact with the outside world. Their cell phones are even taken away, so they have cell phones given to them by the show that are only meant to get texts from production. And there's all kinds of interesting articles right now on what production has been like in Hawaii. They're having it in Hawaii right now. And apparently, if you are neighboring where they're shooting this, it's terrible. It's an absolute nightmare. So, yeah, Love Island last night after they eliminated everybody and there was one person left over who was Cachet. And Cachet has been there from the very start. So it's unusual at this point in the season to see individuals who were there from the beginning get eliminated from the show. Now, a couple days ago, we saw Josh and Shannon, who were kind of the power couple of the show. They had to leave because Josh's sister passed away. And so Shannon left with Josh to go and be with him with his family at this time. So that's two originals that had already left. And now we saw Cachet get eliminated. Well, Andre, who's new, and I will say Andre is new to the show, but he should have watched it. When you could see Cachet was the only one, they're like, oh, Cachet's got to leave the village. He applauded. He applauded, and I don't think I've laughed that hard watching that show ever. It's not an applause moment. You know, it's a sad moment for everybody in the villa. And the funniest part of it wasn't just that he started. It's that he did this. Like, is anybody else laughing? And he just kept it up. Like, oh, nobody else is laughing. Or nobody else is clapping. All right. Okay. And then he stopped. And it's beautiful. It's honestly, it's one of those moments that I thought was... You can tell then that it's not scripted because they would have stopped and shot it all over again. There are parts of the show that I know. Anything you see in reality TV, there's some amount of scripting that goes on. That moment was just too perfect and too pure. And there's no way that was scripted. None. That was kind of great. So Cachet's out. I have no idea which couple's going to win. I know there's the controversy because there's a rumor that Will and Kira knew each other before they were on the show. A rumor which seems to be backed up when you look at their Instagram and you see that Will was liking pictures of Kira's before the show went into production. That they actually left a comment on one of her pictures. A comment that when the internet found it, whoever's running his social media account removed. Because while they're in the villa, they don't have access to their regular social media account. So they have somebody else run it while they're in the villa. And then, of course, there's the fact that Leslie got evicted. She was there, she went to sleep, and the next morning she was gone. And it would appear that it was drug-related, that she was taken out of the villa. She kind of confirmed that on her Instagram. Leslie she's young. She's very pretty, and she's got a lot of followers on social media. So I don't think there's much else that will come of it, but there have been times where on her Instagram, she'll talk about stuff related to the show, and I keep thinking, I don't know that she's allowed to talk about this. If you're in a reality show, you sign a non-disclosure agreement. I know on Big Brother, there have been times where they're talking about production-related stuff, and either the live feed cuts off, or you'll hear them talking about it after, and you'll hear somebody saying, yeah, I got in trouble because I wasn't allowed to talk about what I was talking about. And then you think, well, why are you talking about it now? Just stop. Just don't. Just when they ask, why were you taken out of here by production, just blow ninja dust in their face and run off. But yeah, so the Andre applause is now my favorite moment in Love Island. And if I had a favorite, honestly, I don't care that Will and Kira knew each other before the show started. They're the only couple left that I think has any chance on the outside. And honestly, reality show couples, it almost never works. Almost never. And they always say the same thing. I think in the real world, this can work. The real world is so different. It is so completely different. And it can create all kinds of new strains and just changes everything. So I don't have a lot of faith in reality show couples. Which brings me to another one that has nothing to do with anything else, which is movies that I've been watching. I've watched the first two of the Fear Street movies. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. But I'm going to say that if you see them on Netflix and you go, I don't know. The best way I can describe this is the Fear Street movies are based on the Fear Street books, right? And I never read the books, but I knew that they were R.L. Stine books, and I knew they were more for teenagers. And at the time they came out, I was a little bit older than what was basically the target audience. The Fear Street movies are really good. The first one was I thought good. The second one I know has higher ratings. I don't know if it's a better movie though. I think it's just really good, and one leads into the other, which then leads into the third, which is Fear Street 1666, which I read wrong and thought it was 1966, and I thought that seems kind of like a weird date to go to, doesn't it? And then I looked at it again. I'm like, oh, 1666. All right, so I'm not very intelligent, but the Fear Street movies. Quote me on that too. The Fear Street movies I think are pretty darn good. They pay homage to slasher movies. The Fear Street 1994, which is the first part, has a lot of elements of Scream in it. It really reminds me of Scream, which makes sense because that came out in 1990. It was 94 or 96 for Scream. I think it was 94 for Scream. Could have been 96 though, now that I think about it. But the second movie, which is 1978, and it's a slasher flick, it borrows from like your Friday the 13th movies, although it breaks some of the rules from Friday the 13th movies. And I'm glad it did, because it even threw in a twist at the end that I should have seen coming, and I didn't. I didn't see the twist coming. If you put together a horror movie, I can't figure out the twist after 40 years of watching horror movies. A, I might not be paying enough attention to the idea there's going to be a twist, and B, congratulations, you've piqued my interest. And then there's another twist after that one going into the new movie, and it's not Shyamalan type twists either, where you're like, oh, not again. But they're entertaining, and again, they add to the plot. And so I can't wait to watch the third one. Have not watched the third one yet. We'll see how the third one goes and how it adds to everything. But I do enjoy it. I think it's unique. I think it's different. But like I said, there are some familiar beats to it. So if you like Scream, if you like Friday the 13th, you may very well enjoy the first two parts. The third one, no idea. No idea where it's going to go, but it should be very interesting. That being said, there you go. That's what THG, as I'm better known on the main channel, has been watching on TV. And you guys can kind of see up in the corner there, the little mini Stanley Cups. I had them down in front of my TV for the longest time. Cats kept knocking them over. So now I got them up there. Cats aren't getting up there. It's not happening. They keep looking up at... I've got shelves on this side too. They keep looking for a way to get up there. It's not happening. But anyways, there you go. Another thing that I'm toying with is the idea of maybe somehow... I don't think there's any way that I can incorporate the Entertainment Guy set into this room. I don't think there's a way to do it. It's a shame. Because if there was, that'd be kind of great. But I don't think there's a way to do it. So, yeah, and there may be some sort of a renovation on that set as well. We haven't decided yet, but we'll see. Anyways, there you go. So what have you been watching? What have you been listening to? That kind of thing. Let me know in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. And I will say this. I know there are people who get irritated on the main channel that I just seem to like everything and I don't hate anything and I'm not all like angry at stuff. Like, yeah, I don't hate hockey teams. I don't hate hockey players mostly. There are exceptions, but not a lot, and I don't talk about it publicly anymore. But it is a rarity. And with movies and TV, I just enjoy watching TV and movies, and I don't pull it apart so much. I don't really pull it apart so much. So, like Fear Street, and I've said this before, I think Fear Street does what it's supposed to do. Like Friday the 13th does. And I'll throw this in here at the end. I think that when you're grading movies, it's important not just to grade them as great movies. So you look and you go, all right, Godfather's a fantastic movie. All movies should be graded against that. I don't think so. I think that you can grade Goodfellas against Godfather. But I think if you watch Friday the 13th, I think you match it up against Elm Street. You match it up against The Exorcist. You match it up against... I think each genre... I think it's a different scale that you use for grading movies. So if these Fear Street movies were instead mafia movies, I don't think they'd hold up very well. But because it's teenagers and mafia, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can do that. Although Boss Baby tells you why not. But anyways, yeah. So that's how I go about deciding what I do or don't like. So if I don't like a horror movie, it's not that I'm a snob about it. It's just that compared to other horror movies I don't necessarily like it as much. There you go. So, while it's noisy out there with jets, I'll sign off here with you for now. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I will talk to you again soon.